I always thought of my marriage to Jessica as a solid one. We met in college, and after a whirlwind romance, we tied the knot and settled down in a cozy suburb. Life was good, well, until it was. Our connection had always been strong, but in the last couple of years, a subtle tension crept in. Jessica became distant, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It wasn't one defining moment that made me suspect her. It was the little things. She started working late often, which wasn't unusual considering her job in marketing. But then she'd come home, all flustered, her hair a bit messy like she had rushed out of the office. The excuse was always the same, a big client needing extra attention, but it felt rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. Then there were the late-night texts. She'd sit on the couch with her phone, typing furiously, often laughing at something she'd read. When I'd ask who she was talking to, she'd roll her eyes and say it was just a group chat with her friends. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But that nagging suspicion in the back of my mind kept gnawing at me. One night as I lay in bed, sleep eluded me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to know the truth. I had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. I decided to follow her. It sounds melodramatic, I know, but I couldn't help it. The next morning, I pretended to leave for work early while she got ready. Watching her from a distance, I saw her drive off in our SUV, her lipstick a perfect shade of red that I loved. The drive took her to a part of town I didn't recognize, an industrial area with little else but warehouses. My heart raced and the pit in my stomach grew deeper. I parked a few streets over and waited. Time crawled by as I tried to remain calm and not hyperventilate. I told myself to breathe, that I might be worried over nothing. But the longer I sat there, the more anxious I felt. Finally, after about an hour, a man walked up to her car. He was tall, with dark hair and a charming smile. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see her laughing at something he said. I watched as Jessica leaned against the car, her body language open and relaxed. They shared a brief hug before she got in the car and they drove off together. I was frozen in disbelief. This wasn't just a friend, this was something more. I felt a rush of emotions, anger bubbling up, sadness crashing down. I couldn't believe that my life had turned into a bad soap opera. Once I was back home, I was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately. How could she do this to me? But another part of me knew that I needed a plan. I had to gather more evidence, figure out exactly what was happening. The next couple of days were torturous. I felt like I was living in a fog. I began to notice even more changes in her behavior. She was more secretive with her phone, and her late nights at work became more frequent. I'd often find her defensively brushing off my questions or changing the subject. My heart sank every time I caught her in a lie. I watched her smile and laugh with friends, and it felt like I was looking at a stranger. After a week of gut-wrenching waiting, I gathered enough courage, or maybe it was desperation, and decided that I couldn't keep living this lie. I needed to confront Jessica. It was time to rip the Band-Aid off, regardless of the pain it would bring. So I waited for her to come home one night after what I knew was another late work engagement. When she walked through the door, I could see the stress etched on her face, but there was also an arrogance, a smugness that made my blood boil. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest, and called her out. "Jessica," I said, my voice steady but laced with anger, "we need to talk." Her reaction was immediate. She narrowed her eyes, folding her arms across her chest defiantly. "About what?" She shot back, her tone sharp as if she were ready for a fight. I felt a surge of adrenaline pump through me as I prepared to expose the lies. "I know about you and that guy. I saw you." Her reaction was a mixture of shock and indignation. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, trying to deflect. I pressed on, recounting the events of the past week, her late nights, and what I had seen that day. Her face paled, and I could see the gears turning in her head as she tried to concoct some sort of defense. "Don't be ridiculous," she said, her voice rising. "You're just being paranoid. You're twisting things in your head." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was lying right to my face, trying to turn my reality into a figment of my imagination. My heart sank deeper, and the anger morphed into an aching despair. As I confronted her, I felt the weight of everything crashing down on me, the hope, the love, the trust that had been built over years. I realized that the woman I had loved so fiercely had vanished, replaced by someone who would betray me without a second thought. I had a decision to make. Would I fight for us or for myself? I knew this was going to be a turning point, and the outcome could change everything. The confrontation hung in the air like a thick fog, each accusation hanging between us. I could see the conflict in Jessica's eyes, the fear of being caught and the defiance that came with being backed into a corner. For a moment I thought she might crack, that she might finally confess to the truth that had been gnawing at me for weeks. But instead, she did what she always did when faced with uncomfortable truths. She deflected. "You're just being dramatic, Dave. I can't believe you'd actually accuse me of cheating." Her voice was laced with indignation, but I could see the cracks appearing. "Dramatic?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You think it's dramatic to note that your late nights have coincided with the arrival of a new friend in your life? I saw you with him, Jess. Don't pretend like I'm imagining this." She hesitated, and for a brief second I thought I caught a glimpse of guilt on her face. But then she masked it with annoyance, crossing her arms tighter against her chest, the defensive posture of someone claiming innocence. "This is ridiculous. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. Just because I have a friend doesn't mean I'm cheating on you." I could feel the frustration boiling inside me. "It's not just a friend, Jessica. You've been sneaking around lying to me. You've changed. This isn't the woman I married." My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. "You know what? Maybe I have changed." She snapped back, her tone suddenly sharper, a mix of anger and something else I couldn't identify. "Maybe I'm tired of being the perfect little wife while you sit around acting like you own me. Maybe I want more out of life than just being your shadow." Her words stung, and I stood there, momentarily stunned. I never thought I was suffocating her. I thought we were building a life together, but now it felt like I was standing before a stranger. "Is that what this is about? You think cheating on me is the answer?" She rolled her eyes, tossing her hair back in frustration. "You're being so dramatic. I'm not cheating. I'm just exploring my options." Exploring your options. The words echoed painfully in my mind. "With another man, is that what you call it?" Jessica sighed dramatically, clearly exasperated with the whole conversation. "You just don't understand, Dave. I felt trapped and I didn't know how to tell you." "Trapped?" I echoed incredulously. "You've never said anything to me. You just went behind my back instead." Her defenses crumbled momentarily as she glanced away, shame creeping into her expression. "I didn't want to hurt you," she admitted, her voice softer, almost vulnerable. I could see she was struggling with her emotions, but I was too far gone, too hurt to empathize. "It's too late for that, Jess." My voice softened, but I felt a wall going up inside me. "You've already hurt me. You could have come to me, we could have worked on things together, but you chose to cheat." In that moment, the anger and betrayal surged through me again, overwhelming everything else. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering between fighting for our marriage and walking away from it all. "Look, I don't want to fight," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just need some space to think." "Space?" I echoed, incredulous. "You've had your space. You've had your freedom to run around with someone else behind my back. What's there to think about?" A long silence followed, thick with tension. It felt like the world around us had fallen silent, the only sound the ticking of the clock on the wall that had once been a symbol of our shared time. "I can't believe this is happening," she finally said, her voice breaking. "I never meant for it to go this far." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "So, you admit it, you did it." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I just got caught up in something that felt exciting and new. I thought it was okay because we weren't connecting anymore. I just thought it was a fling." The word fling hit me like a punch to the gut. I had spent years building a life with her, thinking we were in this together, and she had reduced it all to a mere fling. "You thought cheating was okay?" I asked, my voice shaking with disbelief. "You thought it was okay to be with someone else instead of talking to me?" "I didn't mean for it to happen this way," she replied, her voice breaking. "I thought I was bored and I was just trying to find a spark again. I didn't think it would mean so much." "Didn't think it would mean so much?" The disbelief cut deep. "You've shattered everything we built, Jess. All for a moment's excitement, for what, some thrill." Tears flowed down her cheeks, and for the first time I saw the real Jessica beneath the facade. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "I never wanted to hurt you." I just didn't know how to communicate what I was feeling. In that moment, I felt a mix of sympathy and heartbreak. I suddenly felt exhausted, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. I loved her. I always had. But the woman I loved was losing herself to a momentary lapse in judgment, and I couldn't forgive that easily. As I looked into her tear-streaked face, I realized I had a decision to make. My heart was heavy with the weight of everything that had happened, but I knew I couldn't continue living in this turmoil. I needed clarity, and that clarity would determine the future of our marriage. Deep down, I knew what I needed to do. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the next steps. It was time to gather my strength and make a choice, one that would change my life forever. As the reality of the situation settled in, I felt a deep pit of confusion and sorrow growing inside me. I had spent so many years loving Jessica, investing everything I had into our relationship, and it felt like a cruel joke that she had thrown it all away for something fleeting. The betrayal cut deeper than I had anticipated, and I could feel the anger simmering under the surface. Jessica stood there, tears streaming down her face, and for the first time I felt an overwhelming urge to comfort her. But how could I? The woman I had loved was standing before me, but she was also a stranger, a person who had chosen to betray my trust. I wanted to help her, to pull her close and tell her it would be okay, but that part of me felt like it was dying. Do you even understand the gravity of what you've done? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. You've not just betrayed me, you've shattered everything we built together. I don't know if I can come back from this. Jessica shook her head, her sobs muffled as she tried to form a response. I know, she said, her voice cracking. And I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. Just happened, I repeated incredulously. That's your excuse. You didn't even think about the consequences before jumping into bed with another guy. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I could see the regret in her eyes, but it felt too little too late. I had been standing at the edge of a cliff, and now I was looking down into an abyss without a clear way back. Do you even love him? I asked, the question slipping out before I could stop it. Jessica hesitated, and in that moment I knew the answer. No, she whispered, but the hesitation said it all. It was just fun. It was an escape. I was trying to find something that I felt I lost. A part of me wanted to scream, to demand she explain what she meant by lost. What had she lost that led her to betray our vows? But instead I found myself retreating inward, trying to process her words. It felt like I was standing on shifting sands, unable to find solid ground. I thought we were happy, I said quietly. I thought we were in this together, fighting through everything life threw at us. We were, she insisted, desperation creeping into her voice. I loved you, Dave, but I felt trapped, like I was losing myself. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't think it would go this far. Trapped. The word echoed painfully in my mind. You think cheating is the solution to feeling trapped. You couldn't even have an honest conversation with me. Instead, you chose to hurt me. I know, she cried, her hands shaking as she wiped her tears. I messed up, I see that now, but I thought it was just a fling, something to help me feel alive again. I thought you wouldn't understand. I wouldn't understand. I shot back, feeling a surge of indignation. You think I wouldn't understand the struggles of our marriage. You think I would turn on you for being honest about how you feel. Jessica fell silent, her earlier bravado crumbling as she faced the reality of her actions. She looked so small, so lost, and I felt a pang of sympathy for the woman standing before me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the anger and hurt that consumed me. Do you know how long it's been since I felt valued? She finally said, her eyes searching mine. I just, I didn't know how to ask for help. I thought I could find a quick fix. Cheating, I replied, incredulous. That's your answer, you could have turned to me. I know, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry, I should have talked to you. I should have been honest instead of running away. I felt like I was caught in a storm, waves crashing over me as I tried to navigate my feelings. Part of me wanted to scream, to lash out at her for the pain she had caused. The other part felt overwhelmed by the grief of losing something I had cherished for so long. Is it over? I asked finally, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. Are we done? Her eyes widened and I could see the panic set in. No, I don't want it to be over. I love you. I made a terrible mistake, but I want to fix this. I want to work on us. But the truth was, I didn't know if I could. My heart ached with indecision. Could I ever trust her again? Could I forgive her for this betrayal? I need time to think, I said, my voice firm but heavy with uncertainty. I can't make any decisions right now. The look of despair that crossed her face nearly broke me. I wanted to reach out to take her in my arms and tell her everything would be okay, but the betrayal loomed too large. Please, just give me a chance to show you I'm serious, she pleaded, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone, likely thinking of the other man, the one who had drawn her away from me. I took a step back, needing space to breathe, to think. You had your chance, Jessica. You made your choice. The weight of the words hung between us, heavy and suffocating. I could feel my heart breaking further as I realized that things would never be the same between us. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I'll need to figure out what I want, I said, my voice shaking. Please don't give up on us, she begged, her voice cracking as the tears flowed again. But I could feel the walls closing in, the reality of our situation pressing down on me. I didn't know how to move forward, how to navigate the pain that had suddenly become such a central part of my life. After a long silence, I finally turned away from her, feeling the weight of everything we had lost. My mind was racing as I considered my next steps. I needed to pull myself together to figure out what this all meant for me. As I paced the living room, I felt emptiness settling into my bones. Nothing would ever be the same again, and I wasn't sure if repairing what was broken was even possible. I needed to find clarity and strength to face whatever came next. The reality was that I was standing at a crossroads, and the decision I would make in the coming days could change everything. The days that followed were a blur of emotions, each one more intense than the last. I couldn't escape the feeling of betrayal that hung over me like a dark cloud. Every time I saw Jessica, a rush of anger and sadness would crash over me. I was trapped in a cycle of questioning every moment we had shared, replaying memories in my mind that now felt tainted. Jessica was desperate to make things right, but I could see the confusion and guilt on her face every time we spoke. She would call me, text me, and try to engage in conversations about how we could fix our marriage. But every time she spoke, all I could think about was the man she had turned to when she felt lost. One evening, after a particularly heated conversation where she insisted she wanted to fight for us, I snapped. What do you want from me, Jessica? You've destroyed my trust. You think I can just forget about what you did? Her eyes filled with tears as she tried to respond. No, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen. I'll do anything to make it right. Please just give me a chance. I didn't know how to respond, how to balance the love I still felt for her with the profound hurt that had taken root in my heart. You can't just fix this with empty promises, I said, the anger boiling within me. You need to show me you want to change, that you truly want to work on this. Then what can I do? She asked, desperation lacing her voice. What will it take for you to trust me again? I sighed heavily, feeling the exhaustion seep into my bones. I don't know, I replied honestly. I've never been in this position before. I don't know how to move past this. We sat in silence, the weight of our broken marriage hanging heavily in the air. I could see the love in her eyes, the remorse, but it felt overshadowed by the betrayal that had shattered our once solid foundation. Then I remembered something I had read about rebuilding trust after infidelity. Maybe we need to go to counseling, I suggested tentatively. I think it would help us to talk to someone who can guide us through this. Her face brightened at the suggestion. Yes, I think that's a great idea. I really want us to work, Dave. I'll do whatever it takes. I nodded slowly, the idea of counseling offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. But even with the suggestion, I still felt a heavy weight on my heart. Would counseling really help, or was it just a band-aid on a deep wound? We scheduled our first session for the following week. In the meantime, I tried to immerse myself in work, hoping to distract myself from the emotional turmoil. But each time I sat at my desk, my mind would drift back to those moments I had seen her laughing with another man, the images playing like a broken record. When we entered counseling, I was filled with trepidation. The therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, guided us through our feelings, encouraging us to communicate openly. This is a safe space for both of you, she reminded us. It's important to express your feelings without fear of judgment. After A few sessions, it became clear that while Jessica was genuinely remorseful, I was still grappling with anger and resentment. She recounted how she had felt suffocated in our routine, that she had felt like she was losing her identity as an individual. I wanted to understand her perspective, but it was hard to reconcile it with the pain she had caused. "Jessica, I get that you felt trapped," I said during one session, my voice strained. "But you chose to cheat. You chose to betray me instead of coming to me and asking for help." "I know," she admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I wish I could take it back. I wish I had told you how I was feeling instead of running away." As we continued our sessions, I began to peel back the layers of my emotions. I recognized my own faults in our relationship. I had taken her for granted, become complacent in our routine. I had believed everything would remain the same, that our love was enough to carry us through. But then I would remember the betrayal, and the anger would come rushing back. I wanted to forgive her, too, move forward, but every time I thought about it, I found myself paralyzed by doubt. By the fifth session, I was feeling emotionally drained. "I'm trying, I really am," I told Dr. Patel, "but I just don't know if I can fully trust her again. I feel like I'm stuck in this limbo." Jessica reached for my hand and I pulled away instinctively. "No, please don't," she said softly. "I know it's hard and I don't blame you for feeling this way. I just want to show you that I'm committed to making this right." I looked at her, and for a moment I saw the woman I had fallen in love with, vulnerable, scared, and genuinely remorseful. But then the memories of her betrayal would flood back, and I would feel that familiar anger bubbling up. "Maybe it's too soon," I said, my voice heavy with resignation. "Maybe we need more time apart to really decide if this is worth saving." Jessica's face fell, and I could see the hurt reflecting in her eyes. "I don't want to give up," she said, her voice trembling. "I love you too much. I'll do anything to show you I'm serious." The conflict within me raged on, and as we left the session that day, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I had a choice to make: to continue fighting for a marriage that had been shattered, or to let it go and find my own path forward. I spent the next few days in a fog, trying to sift through my emotions. As I lay in bed, I thought about all the happy memories we had together, the laughter, the adventures, the love. But they felt overshadowed by the betrayal, like a beautiful painting marred by a splash of dark paint. I realized that if I was going to find peace, I needed to make a decision, one that would ultimately shape my future. And the question remained: could I truly forgive her, or was it time to walk away from a love that had become tainted? As I pondered this, I felt a flicker of resolve begin to stir within me. I couldn't keep living in this constant state of uncertainty. I needed to make a choice that would allow me to move forward, whether that meant rebuilding our relationship or letting go. That evening I sat down with Jessica and made a decision. "We need to talk about where we go from here," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. "I can't keep going on like this." Her eyes widened, and I could see the fear reflected in her gaze. I took a deep breath and prepared to lay it all out. As we sat across from each other in the dim light of our living room, I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I had been caught in a whirlwind of emotions, and now it was time to confront the reality we both faced. Jessica's eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of hope and dread, and I realized that this conversation could determine the fate of our marriage. "Look, Jess," I started, my voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened. The betrayal, the pain, it's all still fresh, and I don't want to rush into anything." She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I understand. I know I've hurt you and I'm so sorry. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove to you that I want to fix this." I paused, searching for the right words. "It's not just about proving it to me. It's about us as a couple, about rebuilding what's been broken. I want to believe that we can get to a better place, but I need to know you're committed to making real changes." Jessica leaned forward, her voice earnest. "I am, I promise. I'll go to counseling and I'll be open and honest from now on. I want to rebuild your trust, but I know it's going to take time." Time. The word echoed in my mind, heavy with both hope and doubt. "I need time to heal, Jess. I can't just flip a switch and forget what happened. I want to explore the possibility of saving our marriage, but I need to see tangible changes." "What do you need from me?" she asked, her voice soft and pleading. I took a deep breath, trying to articulate my thoughts. First, I need you to be fully transparent. No secrets, no lies. If you need to talk, I want you to come to me instead of hiding things. I want to know that you're committed to being honest with me. I can do that, she replied, the sincerity in her voice almost reassuring. Second, I continued, I need us to rebuild our emotional connection. We've drifted apart and I think we've lost sight of why we fell in love in the first place. I want to do things together again, go on dates and spend quality time together without distractions. She nodded, her expression earnest. I miss that too. I want to reconnect on that level. Third, I said, hesitating as I considered my next words. I think we should take a break from each other. Not a permanent separation, but just some space to really reflect on what we both want. I need to figure out if I can truly forgive you and if we can move forward. Her face fell and I could see the fear of abandonment creeping in. A break? Does that mean you want to end things? No, that's not what I'm saying, I reassured her quickly. I just think that a few weeks apart could help us gain some perspective. I need time to process everything, and I think you do too. Jessica looked down, her hands trembling. I understand, but I'm scared. I don't want to lose you. I'm scared too, I admitted, feeling the pain wrap around my heart. But I also don't want to stay in a situation where I'm constantly questioning everything. This break could give us both clarity. She wiped her eyes, a mixture of resignation and hope in her expression. If that's what you need, I'll respect it. I just want you to know that I'm committed to making this work, Dave. I'm not giving up on us. We spent the next few hours talking, discussing our feelings and what we needed from each other going forward. It felt oddly therapeutic, like we were finally peeling back the layers that had kept us apart for so long. But as the conversation continued, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was just the beginning of a long journey. As the night wore on, we agreed to set boundaries during our time apart. We would each take a week without contact, allowing us space to think, but with the understanding that we would reconnect afterward to discuss where we stood. It was a difficult decision, but I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to rebuild what had been lost. When the night finally came to an end, I felt a mixture of relief and dread. I hugged Jessica tightly, and as I pulled away, I could see the glimmer of love in her eyes, the same love that had drawn us together in the first place. Take care of yourself while we're apart, I said softly, my heart aching at the thought of not being together for a while. You too, she replied, her voice trembling. I'll be waiting for you. As I walked away that night, I felt a strange sense of freedom mixed with sadness. I was stepping into the unknown, a path that could lead to healing or the end of our marriage. I knew I needed to focus on myself, to find my footing again without the weight of our shared history pressing down on me. The days turned into a blur of reflection, self-discovery, and emotional turmoil. I tried to distract myself with work and hobbies, but the shadows of doubt and sadness lurked at every corner. I missed Jessica in ways I hadn't anticipated, the laughter we shared, the quiet moments of intimacy. But every time I thought of her, my mind would replay the betrayal, the feeling of being blindsided by the woman I had loved unconditionally. I found myself grappling with questions that seemed to have no answers. Could I truly forgive her? Could we reclaim the love we once had? After a week of reflection, I felt the pull of uncertainty again. I began to wonder if taking a break was the right decision, or if it was just prolonging the inevitable. I knew we needed to have that conversation soon, to face the reality of our choices and decide whether we were willing to fight for each other or let go of what we had. As the week came to an end, I felt an urgency to reconnect with Jessica, to finally address the weight of our decisions. I realized that regardless of the outcome, I needed to face the truth. No matter how painful it was, I was ready to confront the future together or apart. And so I picked up my phone, ready to reach out. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever would come next. It was time to decide the direction of our lives. As I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, I felt a whirlwind of emotions, nervousness, hope, fear, and uncertainty. The week of silence had been a crucible for both Jessica and me. I had spent countless hours reflecting on the future of our marriage, and now it was time to make a choice. I typed a simple message: "Can we meet tonight?" The response came quickly: "Yes, of course." "I've been waiting." That evening, I arrived at a small coffee shop we used to frequent, a place filled with memories of laughter and love. As I stepped inside, the familiar scent of coffee wafted through the air, mixed with the sound of clinking cups and hushed conversations. I felt an overwhelming wave of nostalgia wash over me. When Jessica walked in, my heart raced. She looked nervous but hopeful, and as our eyes met, I felt the weight of the past week crashing down on me. We took a table in the corner, and the moment we sat down, the tension was palpable. "Hey," she said softly, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. "Hey," I replied, forcing a smile despite the turmoil inside. We exchanged awkward small talk for a few moments, both of us hesitant to dive into what really mattered. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, "I've spent a lot of time thinking about everything, about us." "Me too," she responded quickly, her eyes searching mine for answers. "I know this is hard, and I just want you to know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes." I nodded slowly. "I want to believe that, Jess, I really do, but I need more than just promises. I need to see change." "I'm committed to change," she insisted, her voice earnest. "I've been reflecting on everything I did, and I'm so sorry. I want to rebuild our connection, and I want to be the partner you deserve." As she spoke, I felt a glimmer of hope flicker within me. It was clear that she was genuinely remorseful, but was that enough? I couldn't shake off the doubts that lingered in the back of my mind. "I think we need to take things slowly," I said carefully. "It's going to take time for me to fully trust you again. I want to explore the possibility of rebuilding our relationship, but I need to do it at my own pace." "Of course," she said, her expression softening. "I understand. I'll be patient. I just want the chance to prove to you that I can be better." We talked for hours, delving into our feelings, fears, and hopes for the future. It wasn't easy, but I could feel the walls slowly beginning to come down. We shared laughter, memories of happier times, and even some tears. It was cathartic, and for the first time in a while I felt a glimmer of that love I had thought was lost forever. As the conversation progressed, I realized I still loved her. That part of me hadn't faded. But it was intertwined with the hurt and betrayal, creating a complex web of emotions that I would need to untangle. "Do you really think we can make this work?" I asked, searching her eyes for the truth. "I do," she replied, her voice steady. "I know it's going to be hard, and I know I've hurt you deeply, but I believe we can find our way back to each other. I want to do the hard work." I reflected on her words, feeling the tension in my chest slowly ease. It was a risk, a huge one, but maybe, just maybe, it was a risk worth taking. "I want to try," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But we need to set clear boundaries and keep communication open. I don't want to go through this again." "Absolutely," she agreed, relief flooding her features. "I'll do whatever it takes, I promise." As we left the coffee shop that night, I felt the heaviness of the past lifted just a little. There was still a long road ahead, but for the first time, I felt hopeful about the possibility of rebuilding. In the weeks that followed, we put in the effort. We went on dates, explored new activities together, and attended counseling sessions regularly. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt and frustration as old wounds resurfaced. But we were committed to being honest with each other and addressing any underlying issues. Jessica worked hard to regain my trust, and I began to see the changes in her behavior. She became more open and vulnerable with her feelings, sharing her struggles instead of running away from them. Slowly, I started to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, and it made the journey a little more bearable. But I also learned to stand up for myself. I realized that love alone wouldn't fix everything. It required effort, understanding, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. I began to focus on my own needs and desires, making it a priority to nurture my well-being. As time went on, we found ourselves laughing more, sharing intimate moments, and even rediscovering the spark that had brought us together in the first place. It was a fragile thing, but it was there, and I held on to it tightly. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I turned to Jessica and said, "I can see us getting through this. It's not going to be easy, but I believe in us." She smiled through her tears, and in that moment I knew it was worth the fight. We were two imperfect people trying to navigate the complexities of love and betrayal, but we were doing it together. As we embraced, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Life was unpredictable, and the future remained uncertain, but I was ready to face it, together with the woman I still loved. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but perhaps it would lead us to a stronger, deeper connection than we had ever known. In that moment, under the fading light of day, I realized that love was a choice to forgive, to grow, and to strive for a better tomorrow. And that choice was one I was willing to make.